Welcome to our cartridge profile of the 30-06 Springfield Cartridge. The 30-06 is a .308 caliber bullet, but it's called the 30-06, 30 referring to the caliber and 06 referring to the year 1906 when it was originally released. Now, originally it was a military round, but it's really found its home primarily for centerfire hunters.
Yeah.
People who are hunting with this bullet, as well as, you know, a large variety of other types of shooting. But I mean, 114 years later, this is still one of the most popular cartridges out there. And so due respect to the humble 30-06, but we are going to talk about pros and cons in this video because we're comparing it to some modern cartridges as well.
So over the course of this video, we are going to cover 10 pros and cons, things that are maybe not super obvious you may not have heard before. But for all the stats, all the details and comparison, make sure you go check out our cartridge profile on Backfire. Put a link up here, put a link in the description. You need to go check that out. It's going to give you all the explanation, all the numbers and stats, some of those that we'll share here in this video, but also, you know, what animals it should be used for, all sorts of information, ballistics,
everything.
It's just an awesome resource. So make sure you go check that out. Yeah, you're missing out if you don't.
All right, the first pro is this thing scores a 21.57 on Taylor's knockout factor formula. Now, this is an old formula. It's one that doesn't get enough airtime now. But it was designed as a way to compare the killing power, the stopping power of different cartridges. It's a good formula because it's better than just muzzle or than just foot-pounds of energy. It's taking into account a little bit more to tell you how well it's going to penetrate as well as how big of an area it's going to damage.
For comparison, this thing scores higher on Taylor's knockout formula than a 28 Nosler. I mean, and that is a powerful flat shooting round. It doesn't do as well as a 300 Win Mag as you might expect, but it outdoes, you know, 6.5 Creedmoor, 7 MMO8, all sorts of other rounds. Some of the most popular rounds that you'll see, we'll show them here on the screen, and you can just see how the 30-06 compares. It's a pretty amazing round, I think, for stopping power.
You would not want to be shot by one.
No, and it's fun to watch
in
slow motion to see what it does to things. It's pretty sweet.
And speaking of slow motion, this is our first con of the 30-06. One problem with the cartridge, one thing that really holds it back, in my mind, from being more useful and successful, is if you have a bag of candy, for example, a bag of M&Ms, and you shoot that bag of M&Ms, your M&Ms are gone, my friend.
Yeah. You might have that one survive.
Look at that footage. We shot this bag of M&Ms with the 30-06. This is with a Phantom camera in incredible slow motion. Look as the bullet enters, and it's just dust that exits. A couple little whole ones, but it's just dust that comes out of that thing. That is incredible, the power that it's putting into that.
The next con, an actual con of the
serious one this time,
is its speed. This thing runs the 500-yard dash a little bit slower, not a lot, but a little bit slower than a lot of other rounds, including the 6.5 Creedmoor. So check out this list here. These are all rounds that are shooting faster, hitting that 500 yards a little bit faster.
Now, the only reason that that even matters is because the longer that bullet is in the air, the more time it has for wind and gravity to affect it. And so it is not going to perform quite as well on those two factors as some of the other cartridges, but I'm talking about a slight amount here. But it is something notable compared to many more modern cartridges that have been designed.
All right, but a real serious pro, and I mean like a substantial pro to me of the 30-06, is barrel life expectancy. Based on the Backfire barrel life expectancy formula, which is based on so many variables, you're going to be able to get about 2,577 rounds through a standard barrel. That's
it's really impressive. And I know that may be new to a lot of you who aren't familiar with our formula. The way that we've developed that is we're taking into account a lot of data points. And, we're looking at the max pressure and powders used and caliber, bullet weight, speed, a whole bunch of different things. Then we've taken training data on what many, many dozens of people experienced and how long they actually had a barrel last. And then we developed a formula to match that training data so that we could see overall how long each cartridge will last in terms of barrel life. Now, obviously, it depends on the particular load you use, how hot you shoot the gun, but we found it to be surprisingly accurate between calibers. And this one has an excellent barrel life. I mean, that's double the 300 Win Mag.
18% better than even a 6.5 Creedmoor. And to me, that's pretty sweet. I want to be able to buy a gun and have it last, be able to pass it on to my kids. I think this is part of the reason why Grandpa's gun is often still around when it's in 30-06.
Now, a lot of people don't care because, you're shooting a few times a year, whatever. You're never going to burn through that barrel. I care. I'll go shoot 40 shots on a Saturday, no problem. And if I'm shooting something really, really hot, like a 28 Nosler, I feel like every time I go shooting, I'm like, oh, shoot, there goes 10% of my gun. Not quite that much, but it's just a lot.
Now, I will say that life expectancy is 5.5 times worse than 22 LR.
Okay. A con now is that the 30-06 is a long action, and that's really where we get the comparison between the 30-06 and its little cousin, the 308. These cartridges are so similar in so many ways. The 30-06 is just a little bit faster, but it's because it's a long action. And so does it really matter? Is it a con? Is that fair? Probably not. I mean, you gotta pull.
It's an extra quarter inch. But
we had a tiny bit of weight for a little bit of metal for it. I don't know how much of a con we can call it to be long action versus short action, but it is something to know.
Now, this may seem surprising, but as a pro, I'm actually going to talk about recoil here for the 30-06. I know when I was a kid, people were like, oh man, that 30-06, it kicks so hard. 30-06 actually, on average, has pretty manageable recoil. On Backfire's recoil test, it scores a 48.9. Anything under 50 is going to be manageable for pretty much any adult.
Without developing a flinch.
Right, exactly. And so it actually does really well. There are some exceptions, right? When you are shooting Grandpa's gun, right, that's been passed down for 3 generations.
Our first rifles when we were teenagers, we had Mosin Nagants, and they have a steel butt pad on it. And I remember, as a teenager, that thing, I was just terrified of pulling the trigger on that thing because it would just blow you up. I've shot many people's old Grandpa 30-06, and it was just brutal, man.
Right.
Just beat you up. But that's where, on the older guns, that they just chuck some lumber on your shoulder and pull the trigger, on the more modern design 30-06s, it's a very manageable cartridge. Not something that's going to cause a problem for most shooters.
For comparison's sake, it's about 80% more recoil than a 6.5 Creedmoor, but that's a really light gun.
Which is basically nothing.
Exactly. And then compared to it's about a third less, 33% less than a 300 Win Mag, which is going to definitely be something you're going to feel. So very manageable. I call that a pro.
The next pro that I want to mention is just how much fun it is to watch shooting ballistics gel. So check out this footage. This is, again, 30,000% slower than real life, shot with the Phantom camera. We shot this ballistics gel, and look at that. It just turns, the gel just looks it looks like it's water.
Yeah, it looks like a bubble of water in the air.
So cool. That thing will release some shock. Yes, speaking of the fart, go back there, go back. You see it go in, and then all that gas is just all of a sudden. And you can see that that we talked about on the video. You see that little explosion in there. Go to our YouTube short if you want to learn a little bit about that.
Awesome. Now, this next one's a con, and it starts out seeming like a pro. It can kill anything in North America, but it's 300 feet per second slower than a 300 Win Mag. It's going to hit with a lot less energy and a lot less. I mentioned before the knockout formula. Here, it's what, a 20 shoot, what did we say? 21 point something. And, you know, the 300 Win Mag's 24, a little over 24. If I were going to go grizzly bear hunting, could I take a 30-06?
Sure.
Sure. Would that be my first choice? I don't think so. I think a 300 Win Mag is a little bit better choice for that. Same thing if I was going to go hunting bison. I think I want something with a little bit more punch. It's capable, but it's a little slow.
Again, like you, grizzly bear and bison, I would not flinch if somebody said, I'm going to take a 30-06 to hunt them. Okay, that's good choice. But it wouldn't be my first pick, like you said.
Exactly.
I would probably step up a little bit. So I think that's why this gun has become so popular, though, is it's just a great all-around hunting gun. You want to shoot deer? Great. Antelope? Great. You want to shoot a bear? Great. You want to shoot an elk? Great. I guess the point here is that some would consider it a little light for the big stuff, but consider that in history, I mean, people have hunted elephants with this thing. So is it capable? Heck yeah.
Yes.
I mentioned before the comparison to the 308 because you have to compare these two. They're so similar. The 30-06 is shooting about 125 feet per second faster than the 308, but it really depends on the load. You can shoot the 308 faster, you can shoot the 30-06 slower. But generally, about 125 feet per second faster. But it's the exact same bullet, everything. And so somebody who's going to shoot a 30, if you have a 308, do you need to run and go buy a 30-06? No, I mean, they're very similar cartridges, but the 30-06 does win the speed race.
All right, next pro that I want to talk about is just availability. So one of the most popular hunting rounds there is. It's pretty much always available, even oftentimes at your local convenience store, unless you live in one of those sissy places that doesn't have bullets in convenience stores.
LA, they're like, a bullet? What? Where? Somebody call the police in a store? There are decent humans here.
No, but 6.2% of all bolt-action rifles are available in 30-06, and it's the fourth most common cartridge available on the market today. So you're not going to have any trouble finding.
Not at all.
Finding ammunition.
It's popular because it's an incredible cartridge. Now, we had a couple people question us on our 6.5 Creedmoor cartridge profile, saying like, how is it possible that it's, less than 10% are available? It feels like everything is that. I think that the reason is that this is all bolt-action rifles. Do they have a chambering available in 30-06? And some of them are only made short action, right? Or some of them are 22 LRs and stuff.
Right.
That's all bolt-action rifles. So really, to have 6.2%, that's a really high. It's the fourth of all bolt-action calibers. Common. So thanks for joining us on this cartridge profile. Be sure to check out the website where you'll see tons more numbers and information. Whenever you're comparing different cartridges, that is the place to go on backfire.tv.